Hey everyone, welcome back to TechBit Academy. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to be exploring a concept that's essentially about building a bridge to the future of system maintenance. We're talking about creating a time capsule of design rationale. If you've ever been part of a team building a complex computer system, you know the drill. The journey from a set of kind of vague customer requirements to a fully polished, deliverable product is, well, it's incredibly complex. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how we capture the history of that crazy journey. I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Have you ever inherited a project, looked at a piece of the system, and just thought, why on earth did they build it like this? It is such a universal frustration. So often, we get handed this massive deliverable without a single drop of context, and it is notoriously difficult to recreate the reasons, the rationale, behind those past design decisions once the original team has moved on. The what they built is sitting right there staring at you, but the why is just completely lost to time. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the why behind the design, look at the core benefits of documentation, navigate some complex design trade-offs, break down 3 specific categories of rationale, and finally wrap up with structure techniques for success. All right, jumping into section 1, the why behind the design. So what actually is design rationale? Basically, it's the information that explains why a computer system is the way it is. And notice how comprehensive that is. It's not just some high-level surface summary. It includes the structural and architectural descriptions, like how the system is actually built, but also the functional and behavioral descriptions, which is how the system acts and operates in the wild. For example, it's not just jotting down that you picked a specific database. That's the structural part. It's also detailing the functional choice of exactly how that database manages user load during a massive traffic spike. It's literally the complete DNA of your team's decision-making process. Moving right along to section 2, core benefits of documentation. Why go through all this effort? Well, the core value of this time capsule is communication. Imagine taking over a massive code base. Having an explicit record of past choices ensures you actually understand why the crucial decisions were made. It lets you explore the alternatives that the original team looked at and rejected, complete with their justifications. This is a total game changer because it prevents future teams from making incorrect assumptions during maintenance. It facilitates knowledge reuse across similar products. And yeah, it absolutely promotes accountability among the original designers. You are literally transferring your successful design context across the timeline of the product. But you know, the true hero of this whole story? It's capturing the context of use. When you document the context alongside your decision, you are giving future teams a superpower. By capturing the exact conditions of use at the time you built it, the rationale helps future teams figure out if your previous solution is still viable today. Or if the context is totally changed, they'll know they need to revisit those rejected options or find entirely new ones. You aren't just saving code, you're saving the exact environment in which that code made perfect sense. Let's jump into section 3, navigating complex design trade-offs. Let's be real. In system design, there's almost never one single perfect solution just waiting to be discovered. Designers are constantly juggling competing priorities. Consider a super classic trade-off, visible on-screen buttons versus space-saving menu options, right? Do you prioritize immediate click-it-now usability by throwing large buttons right on the screen, or do you prioritize a cleaner interface and save screen real estate by tucking those options away in a drop-down menu? There's no universally perfect answer. It totally forces designers to weigh the trade-offs based on what the user needs most in that exact moment. And this is why accountability and future revisions absolutely depend on a clearly articulated context. Designers have to manage these trade-offs and write down the context of use because it drives everything. When a future dev team comes in to update that interface, knowing exactly why you chose a menu instead of a button stops them from just blindly reverting your work and accidentally bringing back old problems you already solved. Okay, section 4, 3 categories of rationale. The source material actually breaks this down into 3 really neat buckets, each serving a totally distinct purpose. First up, we've got the process-oriented category. Think of this as your historical record, like a diary of how the project evolved over time. Second is structure-oriented. This is where you map out the design space of alternatives, clearly showing all the different paths the design could have taken. And finally, the psychological category. This explicitly documents your usability claims, meaning how a choice actually impacts the user's brain, their cognitive load, and the real-world consequences for their daily tasks. It's an awesome way to separate your project history from your structural maps and your user goals. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Structured Techniques for Success. So, how do we actually do this in the real world? Well, there are several structured frameworks engineering teams use. First is IBIS, that's Issue-Based Information System, which is great for capturing the complex dialogue, the debates, and the arguments around tough problems. There's also a highly effective graphical version called gIBIS. Then we have structure-oriented methods like QOC, which stands for Questions, Options, and Criteria. I love this one because it literally forces teams to list the core question they are tackling, the options available, and the criteria they use to judge them. Simple, right? Finally, there's DRL, or Decision Representation Language, which gives you a formalized syntax for mapping out these massive design spaces. Ultimately, these frameworks just give your team a shared language to capture that vital context of use reliably. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up today's explainer. If a future team inherited your project tomorrow, would they actually know why you built it the way you did? Or would they just be staring at the what, completely lost in the dark? Remember, the documentation you put together today is the ultimate time capsule for future developers. By capturing your design rationale, you're making sure your successful contexts get reused, your trade-offs are respected, and your system lives on intelligently. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this today. Keep building with the future in mind.